Good afternoon. I'm Barbara Schreiner Trudell, and I am your host. This is The Joy Show. I am so excited that you've joined me today, and I'd like to begin by acknowledging the lands that I am on today as we film this wonderful show. The land we're meeting on has been the home of the indigenous people and nations long before colonial documentation of time, and is specifically the land of the Wendat, Anishinaabe, Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Haudenosaunee. The territory of what is known today as Toronto is under the One Dish, One Spoon Wampum Belt, a peace treaty between the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe, and is a mutual agreement between nations for sharing land and resources. The territories that encompass the GTA are under a number of treaties, including Treaty 13 and the Williams Treaty. There have been many Indigenous names and words associated with this place, and today it is home to a multitude of Indigenous people, languages, and cultures from around the world. And for that, we're deeply grateful, and we honor the wonderful stewardship that has happened all these years. Well, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so delighted. Today I have with me Dr. Sailesh Rao, who is the founder of the Climate Healers. I saw him in conference in Kansas, and I'll tell you, I was moved. Well, not only was I moved, I experienced a physical healing while in the meeting that he was speaking at. And the message I got from the universe was it was time to be vegan. Dr. Rao has over 3 decades of professional experience and is the founder and executive director of Climate Healers. This is a nonprofit dedicated toward healing the Earth's climate. He's a systems specialist with a PhD in electrical engineering from Stanford University. In 2006, he switched careers and became deeply immersed full-time in solving the environmental crisis affecting humanity. Dr. Rao promised his granddaughter, Kumaya, that the world would be largely vegan before she turned 16 in 2026. He has faith that humanity will transform to ensure that he can keep his pinky promise to Kumaya, not just for ethical reasons, but also out of sheer ecological necessity. Well, I am so delighted. Help me to welcome Dr. Rao. Good evening,
Thank you
where
so
you are.
much.
I am so grateful
Yeah.
that you are here to share this most remarkable and important message. When I attended your workshop at the convention, I experienced a physical healing that when I got home, my husband, he's still in awe. I can walk, I have spinal stenosis, a narrowing of the spinal column that presses on the spinal cord, causing immense pain, and suffered for years and years and years. When I went to the convention, I had an idea, like I believe in prayer and meditation and changing things, but
Mhm.
something happened. And I think when we put a message out to the universe, a response comes. You were my response. And as I heard your message, I knew without a doubt that for my body to be whole again, I needed to eat a vegan diet. And I've been doing that ever since. But what's cool is I was healed before I left your 2-hour workshop. So
Oh,
thank you for that. Can you share with us a little bit about your organization and your hopes for the future?
oh, thank you so much. That's I've never heard anyone say that to me before, and I really feel that all I do is tell the truth as I see it,
Yes.
and the truth wakes you up in some way that I cannot explain.
Yeah.
So you did it yourself, Barbara. It's, you created the miracle yourself. So, yeah, I started Climate Healers in 2007 because I I wanted to have a different discourse about the climate because climate was all about um, maintaining it at this level of discomfort that we are at. Don't make it get any worse than what it is. And I said, wait a minute. If I have a fever and I go to a doctor, the doctor says, "Oh, you have a 1 degree fever, 1 degree Celsius fever." I'll make sure it doesn't go over 2 degrees Celsius. I would say, wait a minute. You're supposed to reverse this for me, right?
Yeah.
So that's the idea behind climate healers, because the Earth has a fever and we have to reverse it,
Yes.
and that requires us to think about things differently.
So, what I really enjoyed in your presentation was the bathtub and
Hmm.
how you explained the importance of not only dealing with, the emissions from automobiles and industry, but more importantly, having to deal with both things at the same time. Can you explain this picture to everyone and what your ideas are behind it and why this is so important?
Yeah, I'm a systems engineer, and in systems, we look at every aspect of a problem and we create a model for it that helps us understand how the solution space. And then you
Hmm.
can explore the solution space and figure out what the optimal solution is. This is just standard systems engineering, what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I looked at how would I describe the climate system so that it's easy for people to understand the solutions. And so the bathtub is I think a simple analogy, but it is accurate. Okay, well, it's meant to be accurate. So it has two machines, the burning machine and the killing machine, and they're basically two faucets that are pouring water into a bathtub.
Yeah.
So the bathtub has 1,000 liters of water, and that corresponds to the 1,000 billion tons of CO2, carbon dioxide, that we have added to the atmosphere since the
Hmm.
Industrial Revolution began. Okay, so these numbers were all current as of 2021. So we have added more since then. Okay, because I did this for Glasgow, and so 1,000 liters of water corresponds to 1,000 billion tons of CO2. The burning machine is all fossil fuels and industry, and that's
Hmm.
pouring 35 liters per minute into the bathtub. So that
Okay.
corresponds to the 35 billion tons of CO2 that we add to the atmosphere every year. So 1 liter is like a billion tons of CO2, and a minute is like a year. You know,
Okay.
because if I talk about 35 liters per year, people will say, "What kind of bathtub is this? What kind of faucet is this?" So I had to use the appropriate uh, units when I talk about the model. So anyway, 35 liters per minute from the burning machine, and then 50 liters per minute from the killing machine faucet. So the
Hmm.
killing machine is all of animal agriculture and fishing, and that's adding about 15 billion tons of CO2 equivalent to the atmosphere every year. So, uh, in addition, we have an aerosol tank that's connected to the burning machine faucet, and that corresponds to all the cooling gases that we've added to the atmosphere, uh, that we add to the atmosphere every year from burning fossil fuels. Those
Hmm.
cooling gases are like sulfur dioxide and aerosols, other aerosols. And they mask about 1/3 of the heating that we are causing with our CO2. So we are not getting 1/3 of the heating that we are putting up because of these cooling gases. This is
Hmm.
why it has 350 liters of water in the aerosol tank. That's roughly 1/3 of the 1,000 liters. Okay.
Hmm.
Now the killing machine faucet is connected to the drain of the bathtub. So whenever we basically when we eat animal foods, we are saying we don't want the forest to come back. We're not interested in that. But if we stopped eating animal foods, those forests will come back because all that land will be released back to nature. Okay, this is why the killing machine is blocking the drain of the bathtub.
Okay.
So the 30 liters per minute corresponds to the 30 billion tons of CO2 that you could be sequestering today if we all stopped eating animals and if there were no animals and
Right.
no domestic animals on the planet. Right? So that's a choice we are making when we use animals and we eat animals. So And then the drain is connected to the vegan reforestation tank. And that's our estimate of how much carbon dioxide can be sequestered if we let all that land that we're using for animals go back to nature. And at maturity, it could sequester up to 2,000 billion tons of carbon dioxide.
And that's because of the trees, correct? Trees
Right.
absorb carbon. Okay.
Yes. So we have cut half the trees on the planet over the last 10,000 years. There used to be 6 trillion trees. Now there are only 3 trillion trees. And all
Okay.
that land that the trees were sitting on, I mean, we are using it as grazing land mostly for animal agriculture. And some
Right.
of that land has been desert, made into desert as well,
Hmm.
usually by grazing with animals. And then the animals, as they graze more and more, the land becomes a desert. Right?
Yes.
And so this is just an estimate of the total potential of the vegan reforestation uh, option. So that's the setup. And then we say, the burning machine faucet, if we turn it down by 1 liter per minute, from 35 to 34, it will pour 10 liters from the aerosol tank into the bathtub.
Hmm.
Okay. So for every 1 liter per minute, you get another 10 liters from the aerosol tank into the bathtub. So if we shut it off, all 350 liters will pour into the bathtub.
Right.
Okay. So the killing machine, for every 1 liter per minute that you turn down the killing machine faucet, 2 liters per minute will open up and drain from the bathtub into the vegan reforestation tank. So that if you shut it off completely, all 30 liters per minute will drain from the bathtub into the into the vegan reforestation tank. So then we also in the setup say that if the bathtub has more than 1,200 liters of water, the baby is going to drown. So we cannot let it go over 1,200 liters.
Right.
Okay. So then I'm asking people, if you're all competent plumbers of climate change, how would you solve this problem? How would you prevent the baby from drowning and drain the bathtub without overflowing the vegan reforestation tank? So this way we can all solve climate change together and then based on that decide what do we want to do with our lives.
Yes. So we have to shut off both faucets. Just like
Right,
if my bathtub was backed up, I'd have to shut off both the hot and the cold,
right.
clear the
Yeah,
clog, and let it drain. I can't shut off just the cold water because eventually it's going to overflow.
exactly. So the
Ah,
first thing we understand is that the mainstream discourse, which is only focusing on the burning machine,
burning machine. Mhm.
is missing the other part. The mo- you know, to me, that other part can be done right away. The killing machine can be shut off right away. Okay, because it's all it's a choice we make every day, and we can all do it together, right?
Mhm,
Uh, and also, the burning machine has some social good associated with this, with the harms that it's causing,
mhm.
because it's cooling the atmosphere by a 1/3, which, right?
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, we heat our homes with it. We air condition our homes with it. We go from place to place with it. It's
Mhm.
transportation. So it's doing some social good, whereas there is nothing good about the killing machine. It's
Right.
just killing, right? It's actually killing the animals. It's causing us all these diseases,
Mhm.
right? And it's destroying the planet. It's destroying the climate. And I cannot think of a social good that comes from killing.
No, I can't
No?
either.
Yeah.
It,
So
it's not obvious for sure.
yeah, I know it is. Uh, and so this is why I was so surprised that no one wanted to talk about it,
Yeah.
because in engineering everything is on the table. We have to put everything on the table if you want to solve a problem, and we
Yes.
have to look at the entire problem. We have to look at all the entire solution space. We can't say, well, that's politically inconvenient. I'm not going to look at it.
Well, and I think that's probably, when you look at the dairy industry, you look at the fishing industry, you look at the beef, pork industry, all of these industries, uh, what happens is all of those people, of course, are fighting to maintain what they've always done rather than be willing
Mm.
to look at a new way of being in the world to create something different. And I've noticed that
Right.
even with the automobile industry, like the resistance to, reducing the amount of fossil fuel we use in our vehicles, there's a resistance there. It's like, no, we have to build
Mm.
these big cars and trucks, and you can't shut us down. And I think there's how do we create a willingness on the part
Mm.
of humanity? And what I love about your presentation is that it's such a clear picture. We have a choice. We can drown or we can live. And if we
Right.
want to live, then we have to find a new way of doing things. And
Right.
part of that is, of course, giving up eating meat and drinking dairy and all the other things that go with it. So you had shared, and I don't know if Deja has these images, but you had talked about an area in India, I believe, where some people had gone in and they allowed it to just flourish. And the
Mm.
animals came back and the grounds became glorious. What was that story? Can you share that?
Yeah, that happened to me in 2009. I went to this sanctuary in the Western Ghats of India,
Hmm.
and it used to be a coffee plantation in the late 90s.
Hmm.
And a couple from New Jersey went to India, bought that coffee plantation, and gave it back to the animals. Basically, they tore down the fences and gave it back to the animals.
Yeah.
And the animals came and dropped seeds, and new trees were born. So the coffee plantation got overwhelmed by the native forest, and it
Yeah.
became the native forest, basically by the animals. You know, you had to just make the animals feel safe,
Right.
and so they
Yeah.
and new trees were born.
Yeah. I think, that
So
idea
it's
of
just amazing.
allow,
Just let.
yeah, if we let animals feel safe, then everything sort of goes back to a collaborative type of system where everybody wins.
Right, right. You
But
know,
we tend to look at animals and insects and everything as predators, or we don't like them, we don't want them, and so we want to get rid of them. And yeah, here's a great image of what's happening. People are outraged by what's happening to the polar bears. Well, unless we start following your model, polar bears will be extinct in short order. But more
right,
importantly, we will be extinct
right.
if we
So,
continue.
so this is, to me, this is like we're on a ledge in the mountain, and there are steep falls on either side, and so we need to just focus on the next step forward, and not think too much about all these steep falls on either side. Know that it's there, but we need to just look at the next step, and so on,
Yeah,
and 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 reach that promised land that's in front of us. Because the answer is quite simple. My granddaughter took me to Cinderella, to
yeah.
watch Cinderella, and Cinderella. I thought at first I was going there to just accompany her, and that I would be bored watching the movie.
Yeah.
And I realized it was actually for me, not for her, because Cinderella said something that made me wake up and say, "My God, I better pay attention to this," because Cinderella said, "Have courage, be kind, and all will be well."
Have courage, be kind, and all will be well. Oh,
Yes.
oh,
It takes courage to be kind when everyone is cruel around you. You know what I mean? So
yes,
it takes courage to be kind. It takes courage to say, I'm not going to do that, even though everyone is doing it.
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So be kind to all life. So be kind, without any exception,
Yeah.
and all will be well. And the second thing she said was, just because it's what is done doesn't mean it's what should be done. And I said,
That's
so that became my second Cinderella principle. Because
wow.
just because we have been doing something doesn't mean you have to keep doing it.
Yeah,
Circumstances change, and we need to change with it. We have to adapt, right?
of course.
And the third thing she said was, imagine the world as it should be and work for it, not the world as it is.
Mm.
So, children's movies, I mean, there's so much wisdom in them. I didn't realize it until I watched it with her.
Well, that's a wonderful story, and I really love that, because I know for me in the teaching that I'm with the Centers for Spiritual Living, and the teaching that we have is a teaching of oneness,
Mhm.
and the fact that everything is part of one thing. There isn't, nature and people and commerce. There's only one thing, and we all live, move, and have our being in that one thing. And whatever I'm thinking about or focusing my attention on, and that's what grows and expands. And so if
Mhm.
I'm focusing on only the problem rather than focusing on what might be a solution, then I make the problem bigger. Oh, I can't become vegan because, well, I like my steak. Well, okay, house make plant. It's
Right,
come up
right.
come up with a new strategy. So I think what I love the most about what it is that you share is the gentleness in which you present, but also the clarity and the practicality of what it is that you are talking about and how much sense it makes. So I'm really hopeful that, from this interview and from everything that you're doing, that more and more people are going to join Climate Healers and begin to take those first steps. My husband's not fully vegan yet, but he's
Mhm.
becoming a great vegan chef. So I figure it's just a short little bit before I have him all the way.
Yeah, I
So,
tell people, look, we are all on this journey together. We are
yes,
all going to get there because we are all coming home to who we really are.
that's the
Because,
key.
yeah, that's to me, it's just we took a detour for 10,000 years where
Hmm.
we were heating the climate of the planet so
Yeah.
that the planet does not have to go back to another ice age again, right?
Hmm.
So we heated the climate of the planet, and now we are being woken up and told, "Come home, you're done. You're
Yes.
done with that job." So I really see even the uh, our dependence on animals.
Hmm.
The animals were basically mothering us. They were they were sort of uh, like the cow is literally mothering us, right? So she was giving us her milk for
Yeah.
10,000 years, and now she's saying, uh, "Please grow up and wean yourself from me because you are an adult. I mean, you're not a toddler anymore. You can just stand on your own feet, eat your own food,
Yeah.
and take on your responsibilities seriously.
Yeah.
Because as soon as we admit that we're changing the climate of the planet, we have the responsibility to harmonize the climate of the planet and
Yes.
to maintain it on behalf of all life. So we are actually serving the animals and as a species. So, I mean, the idea of the oneness of all life,
Yeah.
it's it shows that there is this tremendous intelligence that's at play here. And so
Absolutely.
every species, every one of us belong exactly as we are.
Yes.
And we have been serving the whole all along, even though we didn't know it.
Exactly.
Yeah, we thought
The
we were separate, but it's not. Yeah.
No, it's not. And the Joy Show, I think of the word joy as an acronym, just one you. And that
Mhm.
as each one of us finds our true, authentic self, we actually show up kinder,
Yeah.
gentler, and more compassionate, more loving as we stand in, I'm created by an intelligent system. And
Mhm.
so who I am and how I'm created is obviously right. And now I need to follow that. And I think humanity in their detour has been hiding and pretending and
Right.
doing things that we don't even want to do half the time just to try and fit in or to go with the the norm like everybody rather than finding our own path and working from there and being who we need to be. So I'm really, really grateful that you found your path and you're
Yeah.
bringing us into a new level of consciousness. We're going to take a short commercial break
Mhm.
and we'll be right back. So I'm Barbara Schreiner Trudell here with Dr. Sailesh Rao, and we are talking about climate healers and how to heal this glorious blue sphere that we all live on. So we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Do stay tuned.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Welcome back. You're watching The Joy Show with Barbara Schreiner Trudell and my guest today, Dr. Sailesh Rao with climatehealers.org. And we're here to make a fierce statement about standing strong in our kindness and our tenderness to create a planet that sustains all life for all people, for all animals, for all beings. So thank you for joining me today. I'm so grateful you're here. And so what do you think if somebody's brand new to this idea of being a
Mhm.
vegan and making change like this, what is the first step they could take?
Uh, you know, I asked them to first acknowledge that they would never hurt an innocent animal unnecessarily.
Yes.
Okay. As soon as they acknowledge that, I tell them you're vegan already in your heart, right? You've already been vegan. We are
Yes.
born vegan. We
Yes.
have compassion in our hearts. And when, as soon as people realize that, it becomes their journey, not
Mm,
mine. So it's not that I'm telling them to do it; they're doing it themselves because they want to be in alignment with who they really are.
yeah,
Um, and that is the best way to get a transformation happening
I
in
agree.
anyone. You know, um, because and then you have to give them support, like community support. So do it together as a community. And when you do it together as a community, it becomes easier because you can exchange notes, you can understand how someone else solved the same problem. And so, I mean, we have WhatsApp groups with, 40, 50, 60, 70 people who are trying to do this together, and they basically help each other. So the mentors have to be just they just start the process off, and then we just stand back and watch what's going on. So,
Yeah. And I think that's how movements begin,
mm,
where, it takes two people come together, and there's that old adage, where two are gathered, there is an exponential increase in energy. And I think as we begin as we continue to do this work, for every person that's reached, for every one person who changes the way they're doing things, we begin to eventually hit a certain number of people. Like it seems like if you hit a certain percentage of consciousness, then there's a global shift, like a jump happens that it becomes now really, really big. And I think
Right.
that's where we're at right now, is we're ready to take that jump. that's
Right.
that's my
Right.
hope, is that we're going to take a big jump here and satisfy your granddaughter's wish to have this resolved by 2026. Like
Yeah.
that's exciting.
Basically, we put the intention out there. So this is what we want, and there is a clear reason why we want it this fast, because
Mhm.
we are on track to wipe out all the wild animals if we don't do it,
Yeah,
and the climate is already spinning out of control, and we need to bring that under control so that we can get it to stabilize. So everything is telling us. Look at our personal health. If you look at the environmental health, you look at the health of the animals. Everything is telling us, stop the killing.
yes,
Okay?
yeah,
Stop killing and start healing and start regenerating life on the planet. So when you put an intention out that you want this to happen by a certain date,
hmm,
uh, everyone who hears that says, "Ah, I also want it to happen by that date." You know, uh, and then they start working with me. So basically, you create this movement of everyone having that same thought in their minds that they want that to happen, and that
exactly.
synergy creates tremendous energy.
Well, it
Uh,
does, because ultimately the collective population of, sort of the base, right? I'm
mhm,
not talking about the higher ups, the the power,
right.
the illusion of power at the top,
Mhm,
but rather the true power, which is those of us at the bottom, because we are the masses. And
right.
if there's a collective shift there, it changes everything. And
Right.
we're on our way to something. There's your cow. Love that.
Yeah. We are basically unstoppable. When we come together and we do things together, we are
Yeah,
unstoppable. And
yeah.
so Benjamin Franklin said that there are three kinds of people: those who move, those who are movable, and those who are immovable.
Uh,
Okay. And you need all three kinds. It's not, but the majority of the people are movable,
right.
right? And there are some who are immovable because they don't want to change what they're enjoying right now, whatever it is.
Yeah,
But there are those who move. We need to move in the right direction and together. And we do that, those who are movable come along with us, and then those who are immovable will bring up the rear.
yeah.
So this is how movements happen. This is how change happens. Yeah.
Well, and there's so much change going on right now with, throughout Canada and the US. There's a lot of social unrest.
Mhm.
There's, dealing with racism and poverty, and just there's so many areas that are kind of coming to the surface all at one time. But what I love about it is that each person is finding their own footing, their own ground, their own place. And I think as we find that, then a change happens that's really vast. And I know for me, like when I went to that convention, I had an intention that I would be healed, period. I didn't know
Mhm.
how, didn't matter. There's an intelligent universe, this body's a part of it, so obviously something was going to happen. And when I heard your message and experienced an immediate healing, which was quite shocking to me, but quite wonderful,
Mhm.
and still wonderful. The interesting thing about that is the message to me was that if I become vegan and maintain that, I will, in fact, not only heal the spinal stenosis, which is healed in my mind, I don't have any pain, but I
Mhm.
will heal everything in my body. And so I've noticed that there's medications I was taking that I'm no longer requiring. and they're slowly disappearing. And I'm really, really grateful for that. The other thing is, my husband has started rescuing the bugs in our house because
Mm.
there's little critters that I don't quite enjoy. And so he scoops them up and takes them outside. And I think all of the little things we do that seem minuscule actually are quite huge in the grand
Yeah.
scheme of things, that this is what we're moving toward, is creating something better. Now, this particular graph here, this
Mm.
talks about the core shifts. Can you explain that a little bit to us?
Yeah, the core shifts are looking at the current system, which is a system of normalized violence,
Yeah.
and then imagining what would a system of normal non-violence look like. Okay, so the vegan shift, the vegan transformation, is actually a transformation of entire system.
Right.
This is why the current system fights it. They try to ignore it and pretend it's not there,
Yeah.
uh, because they realize that it is shaking the foundations of the system. Okay, so the core shifts we look at what are all the civilizational shifts that are going to happen. You know, from speciesism, colonialism, racism, ableism, and patriarchy to ahimsa and sacred relationships. It's a different paradigm of how we relate to each other,
Yeah.
non-violence, and from diseases and divisiveness for humanity to health and harmony and diversity for humanity, from destruction and exploitation of the planet to regeneration and caretaking of the planet, from violence and cruelty to animals to kindness and compassion for animals, right? From a mindset of scarcity to a mindset of abundance, from a culture of uh, consumerism to a culture of uh, generosity and abundance,
Yeah.
right? And finally, from a profit driven extractive economy to a service driven regenerating economy.
I love
So,
that.
because James Lovelock made it very clear, he told us if the earth improves as a result of human presence, we will flourish. If it does not, we will perish. So I say, how can we expect the earth to improve if we want to continue with a profit driven extractive economy?
Yeah.
We keep extracting more and more and more, the earth is not going to improve. We know that. So we have to start regenerating, right? And we have to have a service driven economy where we take care of all life. We take care of each other and we take care of all life. And that's a different game altogether. So everything that is there in the current violent um, the normal system of normalized violence is
Mhm.
driven by the game of money and the
Yeah.
rules of the game of money. Okay, so we can actually create a new game of money, a new game where everything that we want that's non-violent is automatic.
Yeah.
So we just play the game, and everything that we want will happen. You know what I mean? So we can create a system like that.
I love that. I
Yeah.
think that's, one of the things that I've been, speaking with a number of people about. I'm part of the New Thought spiritual uh, experience, and I'm
Mhm.
with CSL, but I'm also ordained through Unity. So those two have similar roots, and we teach the same thing. We teach oneness.
Mhm.
The challenge that I have with both organizations at the moment is the practice of separation. And I think this for me is the cornerstone of what we teach, is that there's only one thing going on and we all live, move, and have our being in it. And then, but the practical application becomes, how do I keep my piece of the pie? And I think this is where the shift in consciousness has to change, that we begin to come together in collaboration and cooperation, and
Mhm.
that we have conversations about where we're experiencing difficulty, and not to fight one another, but to come to understand each other so that we can begin to heal our consciousness, so we can begin to experience that healing globally. And I think when I listen to you, I feel that energy of oneness and that dream that you have, that is just so beautiful, that we can do this and we can do it easily and quickly.
Yeah, I mean, see that the what drives me is knowing that we have done this before.
Yes.
It's not something new for us. We have done this thing several times, in in clear examples I can give you.
Mhm.
Uh, every engineering project is a collaborative project,
Right.
and we create something that no one engineer could have done on their own. Okay, this laptop is a collaboration of thousands of people working together, right, to
Yes.
make this happen. Or anything, right? A spaceship that goes to the moon.
Yeah.
I mean, that had a million engineers working together. And that was a collaboration. If we take one engineer out of that and say, go build a spaceship, he would never be able to do it.
No.
Okay, so that's collaboration. So we know how to do this. And now I'm saying, when we say that we have to maintain the climate of the planet so that it doesn't go haywire, that's an engineering project,
Mhm.
right? And for that we need to collaborate like engineers do. And I
Yeah.
know how to run engineering projects. I know how engineering teams work, and I know how to make them work well. The simple rules.
Yeah.
First thing is, make everyone feel like they belong on the team.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
everyone should feel like they belong in the team.
Yeah.
And secondly, tell everyone that we all make mistakes. That's okay. The only thing is that when we make a mistake, we need to admit it right away
Yes.
and then fix it.
Hmm.
Okay, so that's the second thing. Third is, everyone has gifts to offer, and you just find your gift. So Pablo Picasso said it best. The meaning of life is to find your gift, and the
Hmm.
purpose of life is to give it away.
Love that.
Yeah, and you can do that when you know that you're secure, that you belong. The
Yeah.
community is there to take care of you. So if
Yes.
you think about how we have organized ourselves in the current civilization, which is a climate heating civilization,
Hmm.
it's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Okay, we tell people you don't belong
That's true.
unless you earn a living. And what does earning a living mean? You have to do what the master wants. Those who have the money is your master,
Yeah.
to do what they want, right? So they don't belong. And then we tell them, if you make a mistake, I'll throw you in jail. So
Mm.
it's like, so it's
Yes. Yeah.
punitive about mistakes, right? And so many people are languishing in jail unnecessarily because,
Absolutely.
yeah, because they have some addiction, and we have a system that's trying to addict them, but to certain things, not to other things. So it's like, what? Addiction is an addiction. So if you create an addictive behavior in people, they're going to get addicted to other things too. Right?
Exactly.
So,
We It's so wonderful to have this conversation, because it reminds me of a number of things I've seen, that where collaborations have worked so powerfully and beautifully. There was a city here in Canada where the provincial government and the federal government got together and said, for Dauphin, Manitoba, we are going to make it a poverty free zone. And
mhm,
what they did was they put all the money in to ensure that every adult had a living wage. So
mhm,
if they worked somewhere and didn't quite earn a living wage, then they got a check to bump it up. If they weren't working, they got a check at a living wage. And what happened, they did this for 5 years, and then the government changed and squashed it. But they did this for 5 years. And what they discovered was, number one, every adult was working, unless it was a
mhm,
mom caring for young children. Education was free, medical was free. Um, the biggest change, because I knew when I first heard of this, I knew, well, of course, the crime rate dropped and incarcerations dropped and all that, of course. But the surprising one to me, which shouldn't have been such a surprise, but it was, is the difference that it made in healthcare costs,
Mm.
because we do have a national healthcare program. And that was reduced so substantially that one economist I spoke to said that if they had done it across the country, the savings would have been in the area of $600 billion. And so when we're looking at this money thing and the greed that is holding us all at bay, that in fact is causing a disconnection. It's a little bit like wiping out one species because we think they're harmful, and ultimately we upset the balance. And this greed is upsetting the balance as well. And so when I looked at what happened there, it just anchored that idea of cooperation and collaboration, finding pathways and conversations with one another, so that together, like you say, with an engineering project, we have to come together because many minds will find the solution.
Right.
And interestingly, we're doing it, and yet we keep falling back into that old model of
Right.
me.
Yeah. No, that's the current system. So the architecture of the current system is encoded in the money game.
Yeah.
Okay, and the money game has this. All money is created in the form of debt in the game. Okay, and the rules of the game are that when you extract from nature and you send the product up the hierarchy, then you're allowed to take as much profit as you want, as much profit as the market can bear. So, which means that, you know, a person who's growing rice in India gets paid 5 cents a pound, even though the rice is being sold for $2 a pound at Whole Foods.
Mhm.
And so we then celebrate Jeff Bezos for ripping that woman off
Yeah.
because he made $1.95, whatever, some portion of that,
Yeah. Yep. I
right?
agree.
So we celebrate that, but then if Jeff Bezos gives $2 to charity, and only 5 cents goes to the person he gave it to, and the rest got ripped off by someone in between, we throw that person in jail, right?
Mm, yep.
Whereas, why did we celebrate Jeff Bezos when he took it from the woman, but throw the other person in jail? That's just the rules of the game.
Yeah. So we
Okay,
have to
we just made
dismantle
it
it.
up.
It's time to close that game board and put it away and create a whole new system that
Right.
will honor. I remember as a young child, I love the story of your granddaughter because it reminds me of when I was little. And, this is going back a very long time, and watching war movies. And when I was a teenager, I read everything I could find on World War II because it seemed so insane to me that adult human beings would think that killing each other would arrive at peace.
Mhm.
And I was trying to understand it. I was trying to, figure it out. And this is going from the time I was 7, 8, 9 years old, going, this doesn't make sense to me. And most of what's going on in the world today doesn't make sense to me. You make sense to me.
Mhm.
And I think that for me was the most exciting thing when I heard your message of oneness. You're saying exactly what I say every time I gather my congregation and we have a spiritual service. It's we are one. Find your gift and give it away. Live your life authentically, and you will be
Right.
blessed in every imaginable way possible.
See, but we don't. We have created a system in which we prevent people from doing that,
Yes, we do. Yeah.
right? So we need to create a system which allows people to do that,
Yes.
and that's actually the role of That's what happens in an engineering project, right? We give them security. I make them feel like when they say they belong in the team, well, we make sure that they have a salary and they can go and eat dinner and
Yeah,
spend time with their family and all that, right? So we make them feel secure first and foremost that they belong in the community.
exactly.
Then they can find their gift, and then they can give it away. Yeah.
And that
Otherwise, they are scrambling, right? So
well, exactly, and that's where a lot of the crime and stuff is coming from, is that people are striving to try and, find their place and doing it in a way that, of course, by
right.
society's standards is not working. And that's what I loved about the Mincomb project in Dauphin, Manitoba, is it showed how successful this would be.
Mhm.
And it was it was ditched. It was done in the 70s, right? So we're talking over
Yeah.
50 years ago. And it's like that's what we need to get back to. There was a
Mhm.
city here that there was a meeting of mayors, and all these cities were talking about the problems they were having with homelessness. And one mayor stood up and said, "We don't have any." And they said, "Well, how did you solve it?" And he said, "Well, we gave everybody a home."
Exactly.
The simplest solution is often the answer, right? But
Yeah.
we're greedy. We're trying to get something for me and harming someone else in the process.
Yeah.
And that's not going to get us anywhere.
Yeah. So again, when I talk about veganism, people always, invariably ask me, what are we, how are people going to eat? Because they are going to lose jobs. 1.5 billion people are employed in the animal agriculture industry. They're all going to lose their jobs.
Mhm.
So how are we going to eat? How are they going to eat? I said, they're going to eat food. You don't need a job to eat food. You need to, you just go get the food and eat it. So it's one of those things, right? So, I mean, animals don't go around looking for jobs in order to eat food. They
Yeah,
just eat the food.
yeah,
So in the same way, we can do it too. So it's like,
exactly.
we need to just snap out of this trance that we are in, where we've
Exactly.
been told this is the way to do things, and
Yeah.
and be like children.
Yeah. And the big one that you mentioned that I hear all the time is about protein.
Hmm.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, this is the myth, right? That they uh, told us protein is only found in animal foods, in meat
Right.
or dairy, and they actually put that in schools. The way they put it,
Mhm.
you cannot catch them. You cannot say they're telling a lie. They
Yeah.
just say meat has protein, which
Yes,
is true,
it does. Yeah.
but so does every plant food. So does everything. Protein is a building block of life.
Yeah.
So if it was alive, it had protein. So in fact, some plants have more protein than meat.
Yeah.
Okay, on a calorific basis. So to me, it is the omission caused us to misunderstand the
Yeah.
statement.
Yeah.
Okay, and so this is how they kind of psychologically manipulate us into thinking you have to eat animal foods, otherwise you're going to just wither away and die. A
Right.
lot of people think that. Okay, 95% of Americans think that way,
Of
and
course.
that
And
is
they also think that, being vegan is really difficult because how are you going to get enough protein? What
right,
ways do you mix the food to make sure that you get what you need? And I mean, fruits and vegetables are loaded with a whole manner of good stuff.
right.
So to so there's been so much misinformation that
Mhm.
has been given, and we've bought into it. We believe it.
Right. Because it was done in school, in
Yeah.
school textbooks. See, when I first found out all these things, this was back in 2009, 2010 timeframe, I was really angry. I was thinking, my God, they lied to me as a child
Yeah.
in my textbooks.
Hmm.
I really, I felt like, lying to children should be a crime against humanity.
Yes, it is.
So this is why when my granddaughter was 3 years old, I made a promise to her that I'll never ever lie to her. I'll
Mm,
always tell her the truth, no matter what.
yep.
Okay, and so she later told an interviewer that that made me feel safe.
Oh, yes.
It's the truth that makes us feel safe, knowing that we tell the truth. In fact, her mother has told her that she will never ever get into trouble if she tells the truth.
Exactly. Yeah, I've done the same with my children, and they tell me everything.
Right. That makes them feel safe with you.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
so, so it is that uh, safe, knowing that you belong and knowing that you are taken care of, that you have a safe space
yeah,
helps you flourish as a human being. To
absolutely.
find your gift and to give it away.
Yes. You are a remarkable individual, and I am so grateful I had the privilege to meet you at convention and to experience what it is you're sharing. And I'm so incredibly grateful that you're up so late at night to be able to be on this recording today. I am your number one fan, and I'm going to do everything I can to help to push this message forward because it's so essential. And I'd like to have you back again sometime, and we'll pick a different time of day so you can do
Sure.
it. Do it in the daytime hours or something, so you're not up half the night to do a show. But I just want to say that you are a gift to humanity at this time, and that your beautiful spirit is changing our world for the better. And I'm just beyond grateful to share your message. So, for everybody who gets the opportunity to watch this show, I want you to check out climatehealers.org. Go there, volunteer, donate money, but change your diet. Become vegan and help to create this beautiful world that we watched it flourish when COVID locked us down. Everything
Yes.
flourished. I watched my neighborhood, all the little wildlife and everything just bounced back quickly. We can do this. Dr.
Mhm.
Sailesh Rao, thank you, thank you, thank you. I so appreciate you. Have a
Thank you so
wonderful
much.
sleep tonight. Say hello to your beautiful son for me as well, and give that granddaughter a giant hug when you see her next. I love you, my friend. Peace.
I love you too, Barbara. Thank you so much.
Bye for now. Well, thank you for